Now, this next area, the paint room, is important for various reasons. There are times when you're going to want to paint on an object, let's say a bumpiness, say for a basketball or something like that. And so as you paint around that basketball, you'll find that your texture that's a square texture on the screen, your material here, is not going to wrap itself around the ball very well. And so you'd have to turn the ball, paint, turn the ball, paint, turn the ball, paint, in the hopes that you can get it to look accurately or accurate. So in this case, what I would suggest is go to Textures, Texture UV Editor. And this shows you what you have. It basically shows you your UV map with the painting areas being indicated. So whatever I do on the spider, let's say I switch over to red and start painting with red on the body, you'll see that it reflects over here in this 2D map here as well. So what I can do is turn on my material, drag it over the texture editor, and then I can start painting instead directly onto my model using the texture editor. So let me size my brush up a bit. And if I start doing it over here, you'll notice it comes over here. And I'm also getting the benefit of painting just on the area that I want to affect in the 2D plane. And one other thing that you might notice is the fact that my areas that I'm painting aren't looking skewed and stretched over the model. It's actually going over very cleanly. So that's a way around that. And that's something I wanted to show you because I think it's important. And this is also where the E panel comes in handy as well. You can press the E on the E panel, and let's say I want to just start drawing point to point. I can start drawing a spline. It's a little hard to see. In fact, let me escape out of that for a second and bring my cursor down a little bit. I'll zoom in on this window, and I will, drag it down. And what I'll do is just start clicking, 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 and just go point to point. And that's one way to make sure that you're painting just the area you want to and not actually hit this eye here or something like that. And even if you do, it's going to be on whatever layer you have selected, etc. So I'm not going to do the whole thing in front of you, but if I do this and then close just by clicking that and hit enter, I'm not sure if that actually closed it or not. Okay, here we go. Then it's painting just that area. So there's a way to specifically get areas that you meant to affect. And because I had depth turned on, of course, it gave it depth information instead of just the color. So I thought that was important, and I think you need to be aware of it. So in other words, this is your UV texture editor, and it allows you to paint directly on it or on the 3D model. In fact, let me change my E panel tool again back to the brush. And let me turn my helper off for a second. No, in fact, I'm going to leave it on. Now you can dock this if you want into any part of the UI, or you can have it sitting out here, floating. And I'm going to hit reset here. And what it'll do is it'll fit it inside the window I have, just so I can see it. Now, there's a few things you can learn about the texture editor that go a little further. One is I can choose between default, which is my model. If I had several models here in the scene, several objects, then I could flip between them just by choosing from a drop-down list here. I can also turn my wireframe on, which shows my UV map. I can choose color, normals, specular, and shaded. And so this gives me some idea of what all this is going to look like as I'm working on my model. So that's the texture editor.